All right, so if you notice here, I have a custom shelf. This is definitely something you want to write down. So you're going to want to have a custom shelf if you're modeling. This is the kind of the standard. The other way of working when you're modeling is with the marking menu. Right-click marking menu here is called swiping, and you want to honestly you want to get swiping down, but we don't have enough time for me to teach you swiping. You need to learn swiping, and then for us to model all the things we need to model in the class, because swiping is like a whole other shift in your brain and how you're going to function inside of Maya. So we're going to do a custom shelf, and I got one here, but I'm going to make a new one. So I got modeling because I think it's funny when the G does not appear on the end of words that end in G. So I'm going to make a new shelf. I'm going to come over here to the left-hand side and click on the tiny little gear. Boop. And I'm going to go down to New Shelf. Now, you don't want to name it Poly Modeling because it'll be like, hey, you got Poly Modeling. And I can't name it Modeling, so I just can call it Custom Shelf or something. Custom Shelf. Okay. And Custom Shelf is right here. Yay! I got Custom Shelf. All right. Now I can put stuff onto my Custom Shelf. Now, I start with 3 different things that I use over here, and they always are over here. That way I can always find them. I never have to go looking for them. All right, so the first thing I'm going to start with, I'm going to go to Modify. Modify. And I'm going to get Freeze Transformations. Boom. The way I got that was I held down Shift and Control. I'm going to hold down Shift and Control. I'm going to click on Center Pivot. So I want Freeze Transformations and Center Pivot. And so those things, if I have this all jacked up and moved around, rotated, scaled, etc., and I freeze its transformations, my channel box goes to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. That'll come in handy for you. The other thing I can do is center the pivot. If the pivot is off, it's over here or something, I can center its pivot, which you're going to need to do quite a bit. I'm going to delete the history. This is history. These little extra tabs here are history. You can open up files where you have thousands of these things, and they'll slow down your computer and they can cause problems. So you want to delete the history on a regular basis. So I'm going to go to Edit, Delete by Type, hold Shift and Control, and click on History. The hotkey for that is Alt Shift D. Now I just clicked on that and you saw nothing happen over here, right? It's because it's hiding behind the menu. It happened. It's right there, History. So when I click on this, bloop, History, all that stuff goes away. So Maya doesn't have to read through all that to make the objects appear on my screen. So you can get bad errors happening, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. It's not working. Just delete your history, and it'll clean all that out, and then you can work on Maya. That's the limitation of Maya, unfortunately. People who use Studio Max tell me I'm stupid for using Maya because Max has infinite history. You can always go back into the history and do stuff. You can't do that in Maya. All right. Hold Shift and Control and click on it. Left click on it. All right, so then I want to get into some of my modeling tools. So I'm going to come over here to Mesh. Mesh is the first menu. I can tear this off just so you guys can see. And then I don't need booleans. You can add combine and separate. I just use Shift right click to get to combine and separate, but if you wanted to add combine and separate on there, you could. I've seen people do it, and it's not a big deal. Fill hole. Phil, my neighbor, his name is Phil Hole. He's a good guy. He doesn't have 2 cats like some people, but you know. I'm going to click on Fill Hole. Reduce, remesh, retopologize. You could probably get those. These are not things that I've been doing a lot lately. These are fairly new to the mesh menu. They've been around as in code, but they're new to the mesh menu. Hold Shift and Control and click on Smooth. I want to smooth things. And I'll hold Shift and Control and click on Mirror. You could add Cleanup. We're going to do different things for Cleanup, but Cleanup can come in handy, especially if you're doing a big scene, because you're going to run into issues, and cleaning them up is going to be the only way to fix them reasonably in a reasonable amount of time. All right, so this new symbol for smooth is stupid. I don't like it. I don't recognize that as anything. Edit Mesh is the next one we can go to. We're going to see, we'll bevel. Shift and Control will bevel. We're going to add on Bridge. Circularize is good, but I barely ever use it. I don't really need it. Detach, I'll add that on. Shift and Control, Detach. Extrude, probably the most important tool in Maya is Extrude, so we're going to get that for sure. And then Merge, hold Shift and Control, click on Merge. We will need to go down to, I used to put Delete Edge and Vertex on my shelf, but I don't do that anymore because we have the hotkey Control Delete. That will work. We'll go down to Duplicate. Hold Shift Control, click on Duplicate, and Extract. Hold Shift Control, click on Extract. Okay. And then we go to Mesh Tools. Click on Mesh Tools. I'll tear this off too, just so I don't have to worry about it getting in the way. Append to Polygon. I don't have any idea why anybody would ever use that, but people love that tool. Insert Edge Loop is my favorite tool. We don't need to have it because we have multi-cut, but I like it so much I'm going to use it. Hold Shift and Control, click on Insert Edge Loop tool. Multi-cut, second most important tool in Maya. Hold Shift and Control, click on Multi-cut. Offset Edge Loop. I'll get that. I do use it sometimes. So, and quadra, something that I do end up adding to my shelf, but really it's only useful for retopology, and we're not going to be doing that in this class, but I'll add it on anyway. And then target weld is going to be an important one. Hold Shift Control, click on target weld. I'll close this out. All right, so what else do we got here? Mesh display. I'm going to want to hold Shift Control and click on conform, reverse, and set to face. Those are the three that I'm going to want. I don't need any of these others. I don't use hard and soften enough to bother with getting them. And then we'll come over to deform. And I'm going to hold Shift Control and click on lattice. Do the lattice tool. Okay. All right. So these are the different tools I want to use. Now you notice I don't have any basic shapes on here. Well, it's going to be kind of hard for me to model if I have to keep going into the create menu, go to polygon primitives and start creating stuff. So I'm just going to add on the shapes that I want to use now at the end. So hold Shift and Control and click on sphere, cube, cylinder, cone, torus, plane, disc, and pipe. Those 8 are the shapes that I use 99% of the time. Every once in a while I might have to use a different shape, but that's it. All right. Now I can move stuff around on here, and I want to move the tools I use more often to the center here. Like this conform, reverse, and set to face. I don't use that often. The lattice tool, I don't use it often. So I can middle click and drag them around. I'm going to middle click and drag this over here, middle click, drag it over here, so on and so forth. I'm just going to middle click and drag them to the place where I don't have my mouse a lot. I'm not working off over in this corner here. I'm not doing stuff over here a lot. So I'm always over here in the center. So it's easier for me to get to my tools if they're closer to the center. So most important tool, the extrude tool, I'm going to middle click and drag it over towards the middle. Multi-cut, insert edge loop tool, merge. These are all important. Bevel, this is an important tool. Move those over towards the middle. Bridge. No, that's pretty good right there. I think that's pretty much everything I need in the middle. All right, now one other thing we need to do is we need to turn on our heads-up display. Heads-up display is going to be underneath display. Go to display, heads-up display, and then go to poly count. Poly count right here. So, we have a poly count right here, and that's going to tell me what things I have on selected. For example, right here in my scene right now, this first column is in my scene. I have 1346 vertices, 2720 edges, and 1380 faces. Over here is what I have selected. I have 763 selected, vertices selected. I don't have any, but on the object I've selected, there's 763. The edges are 1560, and the faces are 800. All right, now it really comes in handy here. In this little column right here is number that I have currently selected. I have 1 face, 2 triangles. All these faces are made up of triangles, unless they already are a triangle, which is like this one here is a triangle, right? So I can click and add to that, and it's going to say, hey, look, you get 2 faces and 3 triangles now. All right. So whatever I've selected is going to tell me here. So this is very important that we stay on top of. Vertices, I have 500 selected right now. So if I want to select all of the vertices on here, it would be 80, and the whole object is 80. Makes sense, right? So this is going to be something that you'll need to have when we're working as modelers. All right?
Wait. What?
Huh?
I'm saying, pull that up.
Under display, heads-up display, poly count. Any other questions?
If I'm working in 23, do we need to switch to 24?
You might want to. You don't have to, but I've noticed in the past that students who work in, I don't know if this is going to happen with 23 and 24, but in years past, it's like a student would be working in, like, I don't know, 17, I'd be working in 18, and they'd turn in an object and it would be exploded. And I'm like, I can't grade this. And of course, would they resubmit when I tell them I can't grade this? This is what I see on my screen. No, of course not. They would never. They would never.
Check their email.
No, exactly. They don't even check their email. So I will leave you feedback on LMS, but I just use LMS for submissions and feedback. Like the Zoom meetings are not posted on LMS because the links don't work for me. Nobody can figure out why the links don't work for me. So when we have Zoom meetings, I will send you the link. I will email you the link. And so we might have a Zoom meeting. Who knows when? It might happen on Thursday. I'm gonna be like, hey, we're having a Zoom meeting today, so just be prepared. Always check your email before you leave, right, Amari?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's on?
Any other questions? Okay. We are missing one student, Christopher. So I don't know where he is. If anybody knows.
I don't have his contact.
Okay.
Yeah.